Hey everybody, welcome back to Gideon Stuff. Today we're taking a look at the Civivi Zizzle. Now this was a knife that I wasn't sure I was going to review because this was released as a Walmart holiday pack, but you guys voted and pulled and twisted my arm, and so here we go, I'm going to review it. I'm kidding about the twist in the arm, but people did comment asking for a review of this thing. I put out a poll and people overwhelmingly voted to see a review of this knife. So I'm a man of the people. I'm going to deliver. If there's a knife that you want me to review, or you wonder if I ever reviewed, first thing you can do is go to my channel playlists. I have them organized by brand. If a review is in there, if I've reviewed a knife, it'll be in my playlists. But the other thing you can do is make a request, tell me what you want to see. I like listening to what you guys have to say, and I will always take it into consideration. I can't make any promises that I will. You know, if you ask me to review a custom knife factory something or another, I can't guarantee I'm ever going to get that on the channel. But, you know, I do want to know what you guys are interested in seeing. So, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and measure this guy. So our sharpened edge here is coming in ever so slightly under 3 inches. Overall blade length, though, is like 3 inches on the dot. I don't think this will get you in legal trouble if you live in a 3-inch jurisdiction, but just to be safe, you know, sharpen it a couple of times, and it'll definitely be under that 3-inch mark. Okay, let's go ahead and pull out some size comparisons. Here is the Rat 2. Very similar to the Rat 2. This is not a large knife. Here's the Rat 1. Again, not a large knife. Let's bring out our USA made comparisons. Here is the Spyderco PM2. And here's the Benchmade Bug Out. Sweet. Let's get on to our Civivis, of course. First up is the Praxis. And I gotta say, I wish I had a mini Praxis with me right now to compare against this knife. Here's the Elementum, or in this case, the Elementum 2. This knife, in a lot of ways, reminds me of if the mini Praxis and the Elementum had a baby. It's a very plain looking knife, but, you know, it's a very Civivi looking knife, I should say. But yeah, this is probably going to be the most pertinent comparison is against the Elementum. Very similar in overall length. The Elementum is a slightly larger knife. Alrighty, and to close off comparisons, let's bring out the Civivi Statera. This is my favorite Civivi knife ever, and a knife that is quickly becoming a competitor for my favorite Civivi ever, the Civivi Synergy 3. Review coming hopefully soon. I've been promising a review for this knife for months. I just haven't gotten around to the review cutting yet, guys, but there we go. Awesome. Good deal. And I think we're going to go ahead and stop with the size comparisons right there. What are we looking at for materials? Well, we have a beautiful spear point hollow ground D2 blade. This is a steel liner lock with G10 scales, steel pocket clip, and we are running on bearings. Let's go cut some stuff. Hey guys, ready to do some review cutting? I sure am. Looks like might have a smidge of weather rolling in. So let's try and make this quick, I suppose. Today we're doing review cutting for the Civivi Zizzle. And actually, I don't even know if you guys are ever going to see this because I still haven't decided whether or not I'm going to give this knife a full review. I'm still waiting to hear whether or not this knife is going to become a regular in Civivi's lineup. But I do enjoy this knife, and so I figured I'd come out here and do some review cutting just in case. If it turns out this is a regular production Civivi, then, you know what? I can just film a review for it. Alrighty, yeah, so let's go ahead and get started here. Let's talk about the ergos. This is a small knife, but it does have a pretty neutral handle. When I hold this knife right here, you can see I can barely get a 4-finger grip. My biggest complaint with its ergonomics is this clip. like a lot of Civivi clips, that's just way too tall. I don't know, I don't think this knife needed a deep carry clip. I would prefer if they'd put like a, lower profile non-deep carry clip, if you get what I mean. But it's not bad. I can feel it. I wouldn't necessarily call it a hot spot, and with the knife this big, I'm not going to be bearing down on it, for any extended period of time, so it's not that bad. I do really like this little finger well up here. It actually locks me in a lot more than I'd expect. The gemming up here also has some really, really good texture. I wish it came out a little bit further, but it does grab your thumb effectively, so I can't complain that much. Okay, let's talk about the action. Running on bearings, typical Civivi action, very smooth, great detent. On the close, it's not drop shutty, but I think that's because the blade is just so light. You're not really going to get a blade that falls shut, really. Flipper only, which I don't really mind. The flipper has great sharp jimping on it, so it's easy to grab and you're not going to miss it. The flipper tab is also very slightly hook shaped. It kind of sweeps up like that, so that also helps it to grab your finger. Yeah, good action. Let's go ahead and talk about the carry. We already mentioned that pocket clip. It is reversible, which is awesome. Lefties are included. Whoa, almost dropped my tripod. In the pocket. There we go. Get my hand down in there and around. It's a small knife. It folds up nicely. I wish I should have worn a pair of jeans today, but it's a little bit big to be a fifth pocket carry, but it fits in some of my fifth pockets. Yeah, it carries just fine. I don't think anyone's going to have an issue carrying this knife whatsoever. All right, let's go ahead and get some cutting done. We have a beautiful spear point, drop point. I'm going to call it a spear point blade of D2 steel. Hollow ground. Love to see that. Let's go ahead and get us out some cardboard here. With this blade shape, you can also get really, really nice utility cuts. Yeah, I mean, that tip is just in such a good spot. Really, really great blade shape. Just about, in my opinion, the perfect kind of blade shape for a knife like this. Okay, let's grab our rope, which we are getting down to the very last dregs of. Pull through. Felt great. Let's go ahead and 1, 2, roll over, 3. Okay, that actually did pretty good. That second cut wasn't the best, but the other ones were really, really solid, which is good to see. Hollow grinds aren't always the best at just pushing through that rope, but this knife handled it pretty darn well, so can't really complain there. Let's go ahead and grab our pool noodle, and I'm really excited for this. I bet this is going to be great. 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right, so there on that last one, I did get caught in the choil a little bit, but that was more my fault than anything. So there's our first cut. Just kind of tried to do a standard cut. And then these other ones, oh my goodness, look how thin that was. The blade just blew through effortlessly. No binding, no catching, nothing. Yeah, again, that was kind of my fault. Getting a little bit too ambitious with how thin I could go and catching the choil. But man, that is not something to shake a stick at. This is one of the sliciest pocket knives I reviewed in a minute. This thing's pretty dang sweet. So there you go. Go ahead and take a look on that guy. Pretty cool little knife. Let's get back to the table. Alrighty, we are back. Let's go ahead and get into what I'm liking and not liking about this little knife. First of all, I do think it's an attractive looking knife. It's a very plain knife. It's a very derivative design. This looks like a bunch of other Civivis, and that's something that I've really drug Civivi on in the past, but despite them all looking the same, they've got a good design language, and honestly, at the price point for this knife, I don't really mind. This is a good looking knife. This is actually kind of classy in some ways, and it also reminds me of old school Civivi. You know, this is I don't know, this reminds me of my earliest days collecting, which is kind of fun. Next thing, we've got a bunch of the, Civivi hallmarks. We have branding on the pivot instead of on the blade. This blade is basically sterile. We've got a steel marking. Focus up camera. Right down there. We have T8 hardware all around except for the pocket clip. We've got bearings. The action here is a very standard Civivi action. It's not the most drop shutty thing just because the blade is so light. I did oil it before this review, so it is pretty smooth right now. It is a little bit tight in the pivot. That's something you commonly get with Civivi Sin Cut knives. They typically break in over time. This one's been taking a little while to break in, but I'm not worried about it. It will definitely become uber smooth as time goes on. But yeah, some of the biggest Civivi hits. Let's talk about that action a little bit more. I do like this flipper tab. It's a very small flipper tab, but we've got really nice sharp jimping, and you can see the flipper tab hooks up slightly. So it really catches your finger, and we get a good flip out of that. This action, I said, it's kind of a standard Civivi action. I think there are better actions out there these days, but Civivis, I can't say Civivi. Civivis do break in over time, so this will probably wear in pretty well. Next thing, the pocket clip is reversible. Lefties rejoice. That's pretty awesome. The blade is excellent. This is kind of where this knife shines. Hollow grind, spear point blade. This is going to be an excellent everyday cutter. This is just a beautiful thing to see. On a small knife like this, spear point blades are great. You can get to the tip very easily for like digging splinters and stuff. You can do your utility cuts. We can see here that we've got quite a bit of distal taper. I'm actually kind of impressed with how thick the blade stock is. It's not like thick, but it's robust for a nice little knife like this. However, we do come down to very thin edge. Just a great blade on this, and that's one of the things that makes this feel like an old school Civivi. The hollow grind is a delight to see. I love hollow grinds on small, narrow blades like this. I think that's basically the only way you can execute a blade like this correctly. If they had tried to do a flat grind on this, I'm sure it would have been fine, but a hollow grind is much better. Overall, I do prefer flat grinds, ironically, but on broader blades, on, shorter blades like this, give me a hollow all the way, baby. But yeah, that blade is kind of the highlight. Very good blade. The ergos on this knife are okay. For a small knife, it's got small knife issues that you're just going to expect. You can see here that I do not have big hands, but I can barely get a 4-finger grip on here. I do feel the pocket clip. I wouldn't say it's a huge issue, but you can feel it. However, you are locked in with this knife. I feel like the ergos lock you in pretty securely. This finger well here is really nice. The jimming up here has got good texture. Wish it went out further, but, there we go. For a small knife, the ergos are, pretty decent. And that's all we're going to talk about with pros right now. Let's go ahead and talk about some cons. And the biggest con with this knife is just the size. If you're someone that has big hands, you can probably pass on this knife. I don't think it's going to be all that great in your grip. The flipper tab could even be too small for you to use. If you're a guy that has big hands who likes small knives, obviously you'll adjust to it. But if you're, a bigger guy who typically carries bigger knives, there's no reason for you to even give this a try because it's probably not going to work. One thing with the ergos I think could be improved is this pocket clip. The pocket clip really stands out quite a bit. I mean, that is a lot. This knife would have been a lot better if they'd put, it would have been more expensive if they put this titanium clip on there, but, a more low profile type of clip. They didn't have to do a looped over deep carry clip. They could have just done a straight kind of stick clip, as I call them. And I think that would have helped the ergos a lot because, this clip just doesn't really work on this knife all that well. I also really don't like the way it's positioned, but again, it's not the biggest issue, but it is an issue worth pointing out. I wish the jimping went out further. Again, not the end of the world, but, just kind of something I wish. And really, that's kind of about it. The bad things about this knife are things that are just kind of inherent to the... Oh, actually, I guess I'll mention this as a negative. I don't know if this knife is going to become readily available. That was one of the reasons why I was hesitating reviewing it, is because I didn't know if this was just a limited run for Civivi's Walmart holiday pack. I've heard rumors that this is going to be joining the regular lineup, but I have no confirmation on that. People have told me that they are still finding these available at their Walmart, so, keep an eye out. I'm sure they're around somewhere, but, if this is just a one-off type of thing, that's kind of a shame because it is a cool little knife. Okay, let's go ahead and get to my final conclusions. And let's start off by talking about the price. Obviously, this came with a gift pack. It had a little lanyard with it and a stupid little spoon multi-tool. The price of that pack was $25. And honestly, all that money was going into the knife. This is a $25 knife. And at $25, this is really, really dang good. If I were to put this into an episode of Cheap Knife Week, remember Cheap Knife Week is knives $30 and less, this would wipe the floor with most knives. This has the Civivi fit and finish and build quality that we've come to expect and love at, $40 to $100 price points. Focus up, camera. It's very well made. It feels classy. It feels elegant. And it is a heck of a performer. I like this knife a lot. I've been carrying this as a backup knife for basically since I got it. I climbed a mountain with this knife in my pocket just because I enjoy carrying it so much. And I've carried it as a main primary carry blade to work and stuff because it's a great size, kind of an unassuming kind of knife. It's very easy to carry. It's a good knife. Again, most of the issues with this knife just come from it being small. If you're not a small knife person, there's probably no incentive to get this knife. But if you do like small knives, or if you're open to the idea of small knives, this could be a very compelling option if you can find one. Yeah, I do like this knife quite a bit. One thing I forgot to mention, probably because it's not a negative or positive, is access to the lock bar is fine. Could be better, but it's nothing that I would complain about. Also, we have a lanyard post back there for, all the lanyard folks. But yeah, do I recommend this knife? Yes, I do. If you find it, it's a good knife. The name, the Zizzle, is kind of fun. I like the name. It's cool. I'm a nerd for knife names. If you can find one, go ahead and pick it up. I don't think you'll regret it. This is a very cool little knife. Definitely great value. Civivi really, really kicked it out of the park with this one. Hit it out of the park, not kicked it out of the park. I mean, I guess if we're doing kickball instead of baseball, that analogy could work. Anyways, you guys know what I mean. Before I say anything else that's ridiculous and nonsensical, I'm going to leave you guys with that. Thank you so much for watching. Big shout out to my channel members at the Cowboy level. I appreciate everything they do. If you want to become a channel member, you can join at the button down below. As for the rest of you weirdos, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment below, and subscribe. I've been Gideon, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.